hit record. We are officially recording now. So if anybody has any questions, again, please comment below and the attestation form will be posted in the comments. Without further ado, I would like to share with our presenters. Take it away.
All righty, thank you for that, Shari. Good afternoon, everyone. So Jasmine and I, we're going to talk about how CTRSs who are supervisors of students, we're going to also target this to educators, how you can maximize that TRRT clinical internship experience. We understand that things have drastically changed since the pandemic, and so we're going to talk about that as well. So our objectives are very brief. We are going to identify the roles, and I need to move my, I'm sorry, I need to move my picture here. We're going to identify the roles and responsibilities of the TRRT student and the professional academic supervisor. Also to understand the key elements for a successful internship experience, to identify strategies for establishment of a collaborative relationship between the student intern and the professional agency facility supervisor, and to understand the expectations and characteristics of a successful and effective TRRT intern. Some other topic areas that we will discuss would be key elements for a successful clinical internship experience and strategies for developing a collaborative and professional work environment. Jasmine?
Upon completion of this session, participants will be able to identify the roles and responsibilities of the TRRT fieldwork supervisor and the student intern, identify 4 major components of a successful clinical internship experience, describe and demonstrate knowledge of the NCTRC certification standards, analyze and describe 3 key potential professional behaviors identified in a successful clinical relationship, identify and describe examples of professionalism and its significance for the TRRT clinical internship experience, as well as identify recreation programming that can be conducted remotely, virtually in our new wave of TR programming.
So Jasmine and I like to start with who's here with us today. I'm advancing the slides, so I don't have my Zoom screen, but if you can just put a thumbs up, who here with us are educators, anyone who's in education, and that can be high school, higher ed. How we're looking, Jasmine?
I do not see any thumbs up as I'm scrolling through. If I missed.
All right.
Just Shari.
Okay. Any
oh, Matthew, I see another person, another thumbs up.
All righty. Any CTRS practitioners? These are CTRS.
I'm seeing hands going up.
Alrighty.
Yes.
And TR professionals, anyone who is not a CTRS, are they with us today?
Yes, I see Jeremy Cash. Hello, Jeremy. Lots of familiar faces that we're seeing.
I'm just going to do a wave hello because I cannot see the screen. If you are a CTRS, who among us have supervised students? Anyone has supervised students? I would say in the last 2 years, because obviously there's been some interruptions in many places.
Yes, we see several.
Okay. Anyone looking to start to supervise students? I know that we are in a very critical area, and some facilities do have some limitations, but just looking down the line, if anyone is looking to start supervising TRRT students.
I see hands going up. I see some shaking. Yes, I see thumbs up.
Because from our end, we have a lot of students that are looking for supervision, and so that is wonderful. Any students here with us?
Yes, we do.
We have students?
We have students here.
All right. Any students who are completing an internship currently or plan to within the next academic year?
I see definitely 1, 2, yeah, 1, our former student from LaGuardia, yes, Yanissa Jones.
Wonderful, wonderful. So we're glad that we have every sector that we just mentioned with us today, because I believe that we have really put together this presentation where it's going to give you some information if you're an educator, definitely CTRS practitioner and professionals, TR professionals, And if you're really looking to start to supervise students, I remember when I first started supervising students, and we were not, or I was not giving any sort of handbook in terms of where do you start, what do you do, how do you onboard, an intern. And so, and on the other hand, when I was interning many years ago with Laura Sarah at Brookdale Hospital, I didn't know what to expect as a student. And I learned a tremendous amount of information from Laura, and I give her a lot of credit to the professional I am today. However, students out there don't know what to expect, especially that we are now still in the middle of a pandemic. So we're glad that we have a good target audience with us. And this is something that is just really across the board of what is an internship. Currently at LaGuardia, we have a 60-hour clinical internship, and when students ultimately transfer over to the four-year college to do their clinical internship as outlined by NCTRC, they're doing the 560 hours. So this is just an overview of what is an internship.
So an internship, as defined, is a professional learning experience that offers meaningful and practical work related to a student's field of study and or career interests. And as our keynote speaker had addressed in her, Susan spoke just before this, that you go to the dictionary and you get the basic. This is straight out of the dictionary. Just Google and you can get this encyclopedia, Wikipedia, and that is the definition. An internship gives a student the opportunity for career exploration and development, as well as an opportunity to learn new skills. An internship offers the employer the opportunity to bring new ideas and energy into the workplace and develop a student's talents. Internships are supervised. That is the nature. That's what separates internships from volunteerism, is that interns need to be supervised. And they need to be provided with a structured learning experience in a professional setting that allows you, the student, to gain valuable work experience in whatever the student's chosen field is. Obviously, today we're going to focus on therapeutic recreation, but this does pertain into internships overall.
And so I'm really glad that Jasmine brought up the point about volunteerism. And typically, some places, the structure of clinical students coming in, they do come under the volunteer department, but they are not volunteers. And so that is something to be very clear. You as the supervisor is providing an opportunity for the students to explore their career and to develop those new skills. And so that is something that I really encourage supervisors when speaking to their fellow colleagues and disciplines, that the intern is not a volunteer, and they should have a job description that really fits a clinical intern and not a volunteer. It has to be something that is totally different. It has to be supervised, also very structured. There's, and I know NCTRC gives outlines for that, but as hard as it is, usually with the limited number of staff that we typically have and maybe other volunteers, but you have to really carve out that structured learning experience for the students as well. So the purpose of an internship is to provide clear tasks and project descriptions for the student to perform. I highly recommend that students are given a final project, something that they can start from day one all the way up into the last day of their intern. The purpose of an internship is also to orient the student to the organization, the agency, the facility, its culture, any proposed work assignments, its mission, its goals, its vision, and that is for the organization as well as for the department. It is also to assist the student to develop and achieve learning goals and objectives. And part of the internship, which is very critical, is to offer regular feedback. And that should be from the supervisor, the CTRS supervisor, not necessarily the other staff members, but that regular feedback should be provided to the student during those formal and informal supervision sessions. And again, I've been a director for many years. I know how our time and the task that we have is multitask. And so, but that regular feedback, it's so important for students. And that should take place again by the supervisor, and it should be during your formal and informal supervision sessions.
So who are the key players? You have the academic supervisor from the student's college or university. So it's very important that the academic supervisor is very involved. And usually they are approving internship sites, reminding students that you, especially for NCTRC standards, that you are being supervised by someone who is a current CTRS and in current standing with NCTRC. You also have the facility supervisor, whether it's a hospital, nursing home, pediatric setting, any kind of setting where the CTRS is working, that person serves as your facility supervisor. And then in the middle, you have the student, right? So the student is taking classes maybe still and reporting also to their academic supervisor. And then when they're on site at their internship, they're reporting to the supervisor. I want to point out that in chat, I saw, students putting in that I'm a student here and I'm going to start my internship. And this is great. And if it may seem like some of the information we're giving in the beginning focuses on the supervisor, the on-site supervisor, but it's really important when you go to your internships that you know kind of your rights and what are your responsibilities. And you know that the on-site supervisor, that CTRS, should be providing you with regular supervision. So do not think that this is, it's just for the faculty and for the CTRSs. If you know what you should be getting, you can then go back to your academic supervisor and say, you know what, Professor so-and-so or Dr. so-and-so at my internship site, no one meets with me, no one checks in with me. What should I do? And that is great when you know what's expected of you.
Absolutely. And just again, the overview and the key players, it is really, really important that the academic supervisor and the facility supervisor make sure that they do connect and keep those lines of communication open. It is not just that the students are registering for the clinical internship there to do their 560 hours and everything falls on the facility supervisor. No, there's a tremendous amount of responsibility that the academic supervisor has as well, and they should heavily be involved in the student's intern process. And again, that is onboarding, that may be coming to visit the facility, and that is something that I have done as well. So stepping out of the walls of academia and going into the site and really just supporting the facility supervisor. I understand that not every clinical coordinator may be a CTRS, but however, that was one thing that my college made sure that they had a CTRS that was the academic, because you do have to provide that support, and you should provide that support to the facility supervisor. I always tell my students, and I probably have some graduates on here, as Professor Edwards mentioned, that you will always hear me say that the field of RT is very small. So we pretty much know each other. So, the academic supervisor and the facility supervisor may know each other from conferences, schools, presentations, and so it's important that those lines of communication are open and that the student is just not left in the dark. The student is not left in the dark as to, this is what my academic supervisor wants me to do, and this is what my facility supervisor wants me to do. Everyone should be on the same page.
And even though we're doing things remotely, it can happen. Even if the facility supervisor is maybe not on site 5 days a week anymore, the same way we are having this conference virtually. And who would have thought when it was about 2 years ago when we were all up in, we were up Lake Placid. Did we think, we all said, see you next year in Saratoga. Here we are now. So anything is possible with the technology. So that should not be an excuse or people's times. With Zoom, you can Zoom. Zoom is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Absolutely. So we're now going to go over some key elements, and each one of these we're going to go into further detail. So we're going to go over the key elements and the 4 major components for professional internships. And the first one is communication. Communication is extremely important. Professionalism, and so we're going to talk about the professionalism that will definitely benefit the students, as well as self-direction and clinical reasoning.
So communication during the initial orientation process and throughout the intern's experience. Effectively communicating both verbally and non-verbally to the student is very important, as well as the student communicating to your internship supervisor. I've had students come to me where they may have had a confrontation. I had an example of a student who came and they had a confrontation with a resident. It's a pediatric nursing home, and she was very uncomfortable by that. They were passing in the hallway. It's not like an activity group where there was someone there and supervising, and she came to speak about how uncomfortable she felt, and that I needed her to explain the situation so that I could mediate the situation that happened. So it is really important that communication remains a two-way street. It's very important to use appropriate language and spelling based on site requirements, whether you're doing documentation, whether you are writing journaling for your academic supervisor. Just really important that you're clear in what you're saying and what your intentions, any underlying intentions that may be. Seek and accept feedback. We should be constantly learning. We should never say, I am that great of a CTRS. I've been a CTRS proudly for 20 years now, and I am still learning. To say to a student, I know it all, and you must do as I do, I would just be doing a disservice to myself as well as the student. Feedback is a crucial and motivating factor in learning. I also like to know what the students think about their internship experience, think about our supervision. I want to know because maybe I might not realize the way I'm coming across. So it's really important that we're providing constructive feedback to the student and for the student to feel comfortable to provide constructive feedback to us as well. And it reviews the level of performance when you provide feedback. Students are looking for feedback. So I know we get busy. We have QI, we have departmental meetings. Your notes have to get done. The MDSs are on backlog, and you've got people like, this has to be done. We're in the middle of a pandemic. The patients are unhappy because we're on lockdown again after we just started to ease up a little bit. Someone got COVID, and it doesn't matter what's happening outside of the nursing home doors. Inside, according to state regulations, someone has COVID, you kind of go back on lockdown again. And some of you, especially in New York State, if you're practicing CTRS, you very much understand that. But we still have to make time, and we need to communicate, and we need to let the students know how they're doing, even if you got to carve in a little time. It's very important. And identify any barriers that there may be to the student achieving their goals. COVID-19 was a barrier. We are all about telling students that you want to get everybody to join together, to get everyone together in the lounges and in the recreation rooms. And then COVID said, everybody's in their rooms. No socialization. Keep away from each other to basically stay alive. So how do you then communicate to the students? How can we still be the effective personnel that we are, the effective and essential personnel that we are, still deliver our TR services, but still stay safe?
Absolutely. And I would say that for communication, it goes for the students as well. As Jasmine mentioned, we don't know it all, and there are many seasoned CTRSs and TR professionals on this Zoom. However, the students, you have to be open to receiving that feedback. And so no one wants to, feel like that they're making a mistake or that they did something wrong. But as I always tell my students, you're constantly learning, you're constantly developing. And so this feedback will make you a better professional, will make you a better student as you finish your internship and ultimately graduate. And if you're thinking about going back to school, but you have to make sure that you're open to receiving that feedback. Some students and some people shut down. It may not be the way you wanted the feedback. However, I say to be open with it, be open to that feedback. It is so important. I think that we live in a day and age where we're not used to that face-to-face contact where someone is telling you this is how it needs to be done. Everything is usually on the phone, the email, texting, but you have to definitely be open to that.
I love the comments that are coming in chat. Please keep it coming. Yes, absorb to the students. You have people who have been seasoned CTRSs, as Dr. Battle put it. We don't want to say that we're older. And yes, absorb it all. It is really, it's stuff you can't find in the books a lot of times.
Absolutely not. You cannot find none of this in the books. And again, if you have CTRSs who are willing to give you their time and their, share their skills and their expertise with you, you have to be open to that. Trust me, NCTRC and the facility is not giving the CTRS supervisor a check to have interns. They not paying us. It ain't happening. But in turn, you're going to get something that is far more valuable. So it's very, very important that you are open to that feedback. In terms,
Somebody.
I was going to say, I tell my students all the time that I absolutely learn from them every session. Every time I have a student, I learn something new, whether it's a new modality, a new approach, a new way to engage with my population that I might not have seen before. And I tell them all the time, if I don't learn today, it's a day that's lost. So I think it's really important to really value what our students can bring to our tables and refresh our programs, instead of, well, we've always done it this way, maybe we should change. And so the internship coordinator on the site should really be open to that, because they bring so much new stuff to us. And
absolutely.
I think it's so invaluable.
Absolutely, absolutely. And again, that is how we grow as a profession, right? So it's that exchange of ideas, that exchange of information. And again, you're right, Sherry. My students always bring something new and allows me to look at, different ways in which people learn and how they communicate and how they can demonstrate their knowledge. And I think that we should really employ that in the work site as well, that not everyone is going to be outspoken and it's going to be that extrovert. Not everyone is like that, but that someone may be very, very creative with a one-on-one with someone, and they can be very impactful. So we have to, look at that as well. So internships should be required to write daily. And so my students are subject to a lot of writing intensive classes. They're subject to their capstone where they're writing. It is so important. I understand that we, and in healthcare, we have shifted to electronic medical records, but students have to write. And so that should be in a weekly log that some schools require students to have, or journals, but you should definitely write every day, write your observations, what you're seeing, what you're hearing, what you're feeling, how you're feeling, because it's so important. That is a real essential piece of our job, is to write, and to write appropriately. Interns should also engage in weekly and or daily supervision sessions with the CTRS site supervisor. And, as Jasmine mentioned, we get busy. Things inevitably happen, but at least weekly, an intern should be meeting with their CTRS site supervisor. We would love it if it's every day. I used to keep the logbook in my office so that the students had to come in and they saw me. And so I was like, how was your day? And so that allowed for that daily interaction. Usually some of the books for for volunteers or staff may be in a common area, but I always made sure that I put it in my office so that it forced them to come and speak with me and tell me how their day was. Interns also should be encouraged to communicate and work with other therapists and disciplines at your site. Because I always tell my students that in TR, we cannot get anything done in silos. We cannot get anything done on our own. You're going to need the nursing staff. You're going to need the rehab staff. You're going to definitely need the support services. That's dietary, custodial. You're going to need them. They're going to make or break you. They can make or break you. Trust me. If you need, furniture moved, and you need food and all that good stuff. So you want to be able to really start the student off very early with communicating with the team. This allows for further collaboration so that students don't feel that all of your programs have to be done by the TRS or has to be done by the rec staff, but that they should be encouraged to communicate and interact and work with other disciplines. Also, there should be a formalized collaboration between the agency supervisor and the academic supervisor. So Some places do it very differently. Some, I'm just speaking from my purview of CUNY, some of us have, we have memorandum agreements, a memorandum of understandings, or there is a contract that is signed that goes through the central offices and the attorneys. However, whatever it is, you should have some sort of formalized collaboration between that agency supervisor and the school. I also send letters out just to the supervisor so that they know this is what the expectation, this is my contact information. These are the expectations that the students must meet. I'm sure you're going to have more of them, but this is the expectation. We have an expectation to communicate with each other, but there should be something formalized. It really, it demonstrates to the students that we're not just throwing you in there, and that we're telling you that you should communicate, that we're communicating as well.
Yes, and Donna, lots of people agree with you, as well as Tamika. I can speak for Tamika and myself. This is true to the students. There is no such thing as a stupid question.
No, please. I ask questions. I mean, ask questions. Sometimes, if the student asks a question, they inbox me privately, and I'm like, I'm going to read it out. And someone's like, oh, I had the same question. I said, see, it's not you want to always ask the question, always. We tell you all the time to ask your clients questions, right? Ask your residents your clients questions. So why not ask, questions among us? And this is a safe space, so you can ask any question that you want. The next one is professionalism. And so this goes both ways. This goes both ways for not only the student, but also for the supervisor, and trickling that down to their staff. I've been in facilities where I've had, staff members that have been there for a very, very long time. And so they just get in their patterns and their routines. And sometimes they're a little lax, and they, a little overly too open with this, with the students. And so this is where they get to see a lot of bad behavior and not recommended behavior, because people just been doing it, like, I don't have to go up to my program. It's not time, I'll get there when I get there. But we tell the students, make sure that you're going up there at least 45 minutes, you're doing your rounds, you're checking your room. And so professionalism is so important. And if there's any CTRS supervisor that has students or looking to have students, you want to make sure that your staff, as well as yourself and your student intern, is displaying consistent work behaviors, right? So they're going to hear it. They hear it from other disciplines. They hear it from in their discipline. Oh, I'm not doing this, or why do we have to do? You want to make sure that you're being very consistent and demonstrating those work behaviors. Maintaining effective time management. So again, if your program, you have in your facility program start at 10, and we, typically tell the students to get up on the floor so that they can, do some rounds and say hello to, get to know the clients, get to know the staff, then everyone has to go. That means every single staff member. It's not just for the interns to just go up and then everyone else is sitting in their office or sitting on their desk. And so you have to make sure that you're maintaining that effective time management, that everyone is coming back from break on time, everyone is coming to work at time, leaving on time. Because again, the message, if we're not consistent with those behaviors, the message that we send to the student interns is that there are two sets of rules. There are rules for the staff that has been there a very long time, and then there's rules for the intern. And so that just really calls for a mismatch, and you really don't want that, because again, it destroys the morale in your department, because it can go two ways. You can have the staff that would say, oh, the student is doing this, they're going to take my job. Or you can have the other way that, I've done my duties, I got my stripes on my back, I'm not going up there at this time. And then it sends a message to the student as to why do I have to go up by my, on the floor, And so you just really want to make sure that you are not causing that mismatch. Maintaining positive interpersonal skills. My motto has always been, when you walk into my place at 9 a.m., whatever baggage or issues you have, please leave it outside by the trash can. No one will pick it up. Trust me, they don't want it. They have their own. And so you can pick it back up when you leave at 5. Please make sure that you pick it up at 5. But you want to make sure that you are maintaining those positive interpersonal skills, and especially with communication. And so again, I understand how departments can be. I've been in so many of them. I've had them. I've seen I can give you probably a sitcom on how the different, relationships work in departments. And so again, maintaining that positive interpersonal skills of being professional, speaking to each other in collegial ways, making sure that what we say, how we say it, what we write, how we write it, is something that is consistent. It is so important that we are maintaining those positive interpersonal skills. The students are also learning that. So the students are learning some of the technical skills, but they're learning the soft skills as well. So we're working on the academic side, we're working on students' their ability to write effectively, to speak effectively. So my students are strongly encouraged, almost to the point where I'm almost forcing them to take a public speaking class. It's so important. So we are helping to develop that. We're looking for the supervisors to help to maintain that and really to help flourish it as they make the connection of what they're learning in the classroom to the world, the real world setting. Also demonstrating that respect for diversity in academia. It is something that we pledge for students, and so they have that. They have freedom of expression. They have freedom of having different thoughts. We have a declaration at our school of pluralism that we respect diversity in many different aspects, but that should also be translated to the facility as well. And so you want to make sure that, everything starts and ends with TR anyway, right? So if they need a diversity, committee, TR, can you do this? So we need, we need this. Can you guys do it? We need patient satisfaction. So it may start and it may end with us anyway, right? So you want to make sure that, that we are really demonstrating diversity. Our clients are so diverse. It is not like it was 15 years ago, 10 years ago, 5 years ago. And so we want to make sure that we are allowing a safe space for our students to be who they are, to be exactly who they are, that we are allowing that space for our clients to be who they are. And we respect their diversity, right? We respect the client's diversity, their right to say, no, we don't want to go to this program, their right to choose, what preferences. That should be for the student intern and all of the staff as well. And lastly, making sure that you maintain rapport with the clients, the families, the other staff. Again, I always just really encourage, my students to come to meetings with me, to meet with the clients, meet with the families, meet with the other staff, because it is very intimidating, supervisors. Let me tell you, for students, yesterday our TR club met, and we had some professionals on the line, and I would tell you 90% of the questions that the students had were all about the internship. They are so afraid. It's almost like you're throwing me in a place I don't know. They're excited, and this is what they said. They said, we're excited, but we're also scared. We don't know what to expect. And so you want to make sure that you are making them feel part of the team, that you are introducing them to the clients and families and other staff. It is very intimidating. I remember my first day like it was yesterday. I was thrown in the horticulture group at 10 o'clock with a jacket on, because I was like, I gotta come dressed, jacket on. I was filthy by the time I got home because we were doing horticulture. I pushed 110 wheelchairs, of course, 2 buildings, because Laura Sarah works you. If anybody knows Laura, thumbs up in the screen. Laura worked me. So I had a beautiful tan, but I already knew that I was thrown in there. And I got thumbs up.
Yeah, smiles and
smiles. Yeah. I know Laura, and I know Laura, right? And so you want to make sure that you're doing that. For many of us that have been CTRS, a long time, the way in which people communicate is totally different. And so we have to really adapt to that. So I can't expect my students to just stand up and say, this is a program that I'm doing, because that's something that we may have done. But again, you want to make sure that you are making sure that you develop that rapport with them, because again, that professionalism is so important. I'm turning it over to Jasmine now.
So part of professionalism, the way you dress. This is more so for the students. Mm-hmm. However, I will say for the on-site supervisors, I have learned that I can expect that the students know this, that they know how to come dressed for an interview. So then what do you do? So when they're here for the interview, a lot of faculty who are here, you should really encourage your students, wear professional. Even if it's a place where the supervisor comes and she's wearing like sneakers and jeans and a hoodie, listen, that's a paid staff person who's been there a while. Maybe there was programming going on that was specific to that. Do not assume that you can come that way for your internship. Ask what's the dress code. Those who are on-site supervisors, I then created a form, not a form, kind of what you see here. I cut and paste this from part of the orientation packet that we give at Incarnation Children's Center. And literally part of orientation, when the student is accepted, I say, okay, so I just want to give you information about our dress code. I don't want to assume that they know this already or that their academic supervisor has told this. I say no jeans, no shorts, the t-shirts, the tank tops. I try to be as clear as possible. Now, we do trips. So obviously when we're going to great adventures, yes, you sweatpants. But then I say to the student, listen, we have a trip going on or we're having a picnic. So, we wear shorts, but shorts, not shorts. And then, you find the approach. As professionals, we're more comfortable with saying what we need to say and getting our point across without hurting anyone's feelings. So you can do this. If you don't want them wearing hats, especially, I don't like the hats turned back. We're not doing thug life here at Incarnation Children's Center. Now, it's a pediatric facility. Mm-hmm. The kids want to do thug life. Okay. You as a TR intern, you are representing the college that you came from. Most of the students that I get are from Lehman. So I know that Lehman does not want you coming in with the hat back, jeans hanging off your bottom area where I can see more of you than I need to see, low cut where I can figure out your upper top size. So I know this, so I'm going to help you along. And these are just things. So when I give this to students, some of them, they sit and they read and they're like, wow, it's very detailed. But then I know when I do have a student who then, an intern, who then comes and they are doing exactly what I say not to do, when I then put that on their evaluation or counsel them on it, and then, well, I don't want to hear you didn't know because it was part of your onboarding for orientation. And at the end of the orientation packet, after they meet with me, whether I interview them or not, everybody has to meet with Director of Recreation. I then sign with the student that they went through the onboarding process, the topics that were covered. So I have bullet points, appropriate dress, social media with residents, learning about PPEs and infection control and things like that. And I have this all bulleted point on a 1-sheet paper and the student signs it and they sign that with me. So that is holding them accountable.
I just want to also just add with what Jasmine is just talking about with the memo of being very explicit. It is very important because, my interest and my research interest is in cultural competency. And so from a cultural perspective, you tell me and my family, we dress up, we come into the tea, right? We dressed up. You tell someone else dressed up, they may feel that khakis and a t-shirt is dressed up. So you have to really be explicit. And again, you can't take for granted that everyone knows what dress up means. Like you have to dress professional. So you have to take in consideration their lived experience and you have to show them. So if it's like, come to this computer, this is what I mean by professional dress. This is not professional dress, so that they can really conceptualize what you're saying, right? So open toe shoes, if my toes are done, that's dressed up. But for a professional setting, no, it's not, because if you ever had your foot ran over by a wheelchair, you'll realize that that's not permitted. So you have to really be explicit. And again, having them to sign it, you have to show them, you have to walk them through the process so that they can understand, because you don't know what a person's lived experience is. And from a cultural perspective, when we say dress up, what does that really mean? When we say dress down, what does that really mean? Like we have a trip and you're dressing down. So people don't know. I don't assume that people know what dress down and dress up mean.
Shara, you brought a point about working in psychiatry. Yes, for those reasons, sometimes what you're wearing, excessive jewelry, That can be, you can, if someone grabs you by your necklace, you cannot, and I have worked in outpatient psych, so those of you who are inpatient, I can only imagine,
Yeah.
you are going to get choked. Like, it's hard to get out of that if someone's got you in that good of a hold.
Yeah.
So these are things that
I tell my students not to wear any scarves, any kind of long earrings, wear your hair back or in a bun if you have long hair, because you do not want it to be pulled and then you can't get out of it. So yes.
These are the important things. And so we're saying that, you can be professional, but you have to keep in mind, your safety and a resident's safety as well. And so you're right. So giving them examples and telling them this is not permitted and why. We don't want you to get hurt. This is why. If you have something dangly, if you have something sparkly, if you have a nose ring, if you have this, if you have that, you want to really be explicit. It is so important. Because again, we're responsible for their safety as well. And so we're telling you this for your own safety. Jazz is going to go over another form of professionalism, social media, which is something that has not, over the years, in my opinion, this is my opinion, but has not gotten enough coverage. We don't talk about, we say about social media, but what does that mean? So right now, when we are seeing intersections of social justice movement, reform, we're seeing political, debates, discourse, political discourse. What does that mean? And even for, in academia, I can pull current things that are happening right now with students and professors on Zoom, and them, exercising what they think is their freedom of speech, however, outside of the lines of, academia, and really just, I'm sorry, guys, and really just overstepping that boundary. So we have to be very, very clear with social media. And so Jasmine's going to touch on that.
Really, for the CTRSs in particular, know your social media policy for the facility where you work. Because if you don't understand it, how can you trickle down that information to the students? So as Sherry mentioned in the beginning, I'm at a pediatric nursing home. So social media, and when most interns, I don't want to make an assumption about the typical age of an intern, but a lot of interns are coming to you and they're graduated high school recently. So they're, when you get interns are in their second career, it's not, you don't necessarily go through this kind of issues, but you definitely see that with the younger students. So for the young students who are on here, I'm not knocking you either, but I just want to point out social media, it's something that they do on a regular basis, right? It's just, there's just some people, they're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat. I may have left other things out. TikTok, and they are broadcasting their entire lives. And that is great to keep up with family and friends, and especially during this pandemic, that has been wonderful. But now think of on a professionalism point of view, you want to keep your life, your personal life as the person right here, right now, attending this workshop, and then your professional life separate. Now, if you are sharing your social media with your Facebook page, with your residents at a nursing home, now they're involved in your life. They're seeing your summer pictures with you and your husband or you and your partner. They're seeing you on the beach in a bathing suit that you would not wear if you were doing a swimming trip. When I first started in TR, I had my bathing suits that I wore because I always worked with kids. I've been working with kids for a while and we're taking them swimming. I had that suit. And then I had I'm with my girlfriends on the beach and we are in Dominican Republic. That was our favorite destination. And I had that swimwear, completely different swimwears. You can just kind of imagine with the girlfriends and the drinks and before I was married and what I do with my, professionally. So that's just something. And now if I'm posting pictures, okay, well, when I take them to the park, to the pool, to the sprinklers, I'm an appropriate bathing suit, but now they're on my social media page and they're seeing, oh, look at what you were wearing. So you just want to be mindful of that. Residents, especially with youth, they are always looking to see staff social media. Residents would come to me, I can't find you. what is your Facebook on? And I'm like, you were looking? Why are you looking? I'm right in front of you. I come here, I'm here 5 days a week. I spend more time with you than I do with my family. Why are you looking for me on social media? I just want to know what you're like. You know what I'm like. I'm here 5 days a week. Why are you looking? They do. So I just want to, be mindful of that. Also, for students and professionals, remember that your social media page reflects you. You could be at a CTRS 20 years, looking for a new career, looking for a job, and they go and they look at my social media. What I post, and I have a right to my opinion and to say what I say and have my feelings. And there's a lot of things going on right now, right? With the pandemic, with social injustice, with politics. I have a lot of strong views, but I also have to be mindful of when I'm making my views, it is public to everyone. And that means for anyone who is, if I'm looking to change my position. So don't think, oh, well, I'm not a student intern, it doesn't matter. You don't know where your career is going to take you. You might want to apply for a supervisor position in the current job that you're in. That's like reapplying. It's not just, oh, I've been here 10 years, they have to promote me. Not necessarily so if they, feel that you were displaying yourself in an inappropriate way. And I know at my facility, when the executive director, when we're hiring staff, she looks on people for social media, regardless of recreation, social work, nursing, a lot of people. And we had, true story, we had an RN, we were looking for RN and for an RN position, and we denied someone who was extremely qualified for the position. But on her social media, on her Facebook, when we were gonna give her acceptance letter, our executive director was doing her, looking for people, found her on Facebook very easily. And what she found was posts of this young woman talking about how she likes to get high on a regular basis. I work in pediatric HIV. A lot of the meds that the nurses administer are narcotics. Executive director was like, oof, is she gonna start stealing? Now this woman, no history of stealing that we know of, but that was her comment was, is she gonna steal from the narcotics cabinet? Can't hire her because we pay a lot of money, so can't risk her stealing narcotics out of the narcotics cabinet.
A lot of employers and higher education institutions do that as well. They do have people that scour the social media. It's important that the supervisors also find out what the academic supervisor, what their policy in social media is, because we do have a policy in social media as well, so that those two need to sort of connect and interrelate. So we tell students that we at LaGuardia, students have uniforms, so the students have to be in the uniform, and we tell them that you are not to post any pictures with your ID or your uniform on, not in their bathroom, not in no area whatsoever. We talk about social media and how that has repercussions, as Jasmine mentioned, down the line, but we do have a social media policy where the students cannot do that. And we sort of mirror what they have in the nursing programs and the OTA programs and PTA programs, so that all of the health science programs are on the same page when it comes to social media. Another thing that I over the years think that should be brought up with not only the staff, but just student interns as well, is vaping. So that's a big thing. We've had a couple of students that were dismissed from their internship sites for vaping on the premises, not thinking that it's smoking, but that it is vaping. And a couple of students have set off the alarms in facilities, or vaping out in front of the facility. So that's just a question that we would have if someone was smoking, right? And so we sort of include that that vaping also, just having a conversation to say that the facility probably has a policy on smoking, and that smoking may also include vaping as well. And the students were very, very stunned, because again, they just think that it's the vape and didn't realize that the smokes would set off. They went in the bathroom and thought that they could open a window and do that. And unfortunately, we've had a couple of students that actually were vaping, not in the recreation department, but in other health science programs, and they were dismissed from their site. And they were, on their last internship, They, you know, a lot of the health science programs are accredited programs that have some sort of New York State licensure to it. And so they just really, you know, really ruin their chances of finishing their internship and possibly sitting for that exam. And so we don't want that as well. We don't want for you to be excused from your internship in the middle of your 560-hour, and that your supervisor has to share with the academic supervisor and someone from NCTRC that you violated the facility's social media policy or the school's social media policy or their smoking policy, because 560 hours is a very, very long time, and you don't want to, you know, you don't want to have that happen to you. So it's important that in addition to social media, that we're also talking about, you know, the use of, you know, prohibited items such as vaping or, you know, cigars, etc. So I'm going to just briefly talk about self-direction, because again, self-direction is very important. And usually as students make a transition in their academic career, you know, this is something that we strongly recommend for students to sort of develop the skill of self-direction. And self-direction is an awareness of one's own learning process and the outcomes of that learning process. And so typically students are looking for, you know, whether it is the intern supervisor or the academic supervisor to sort of direct them, but we want for them to be aware of how they learn. And so, you know, I you know, basically go over it with my students, are you know, visual learner, or auditory learner, or you a tactile learner? So based on that, you want to be able to be aware of how you learn. So, you know, again, if carrying that book with you and documenting everything is so important. Employing the habit of mind. So in our first year seminar class, we talk about the 16 habits of mind. We focus on 8 of them, but the habit of mind of responsibility. So students should be responsible for their own learning style, their own preferences, their own abilities. Responsibility that if you don't come to your internship, you know, site on time, you may be written up and you may, you know, be dismissed. You know, if you're not, you know, taking responsibility of your own actions and the repercussions of those. So it's important of really just of helping the students to develop that, the responsibility of the things. This is the things that you need to do, whether it is a project, whether it is working with another staff member, but they have to be responsible for that. Also taking self-direction in performing learning activities. And oh, I'm sorry guys, I'm trying to move this thing over, and because it's blocking my screen. And solving problems. So again, you know, it's, you know, listening, right? We as the academic supervisor and the facility supervisor, listening to the students, but then asking the students, what do you think that you should do? And not giving them the answer, but really helping them through learning activities to solve problems and to, you know, to make decisions, to help them go through the decision-making process. Learning with and through others. Again, no one likes to feel like they made a mistake. No one wants to feel like I don't know the answer, and like, you know, a comment like, you know, am I going to ask a dumb question or a stupid question? And it's not, there's none, but just learning, you know, that self-direction is learning with and through others. Also learning to identify problems and limitations in one's own knowledge. And so if there's something that you don't know, it is asking for that. And so that's where that self-direction comes in, where you're actually working through that limitation, working through that process. You will not be able to, and again, this is my opinion, you will not be able to successfully employ the API process if you don't know how to do that with yourself. If you don't know how to make an assessment of your own limitations, your own strengths, your own, you know, problems within your own knowledge, then it's very difficult for you to see that and to hear that in your potential clients. So you want to make sure that you're learning to identify those problems and that you're speaking with someone. And lastly is, which I think should be at the top, because in our field, we don't have a lot of conversations or enough conversations, and that just depends on where you go, on evidence-based practice. So that's demonstrating and engaging in evidence-based practice. And so I would employ the facility supervisors that whatever project that you have the students work on, that they need to engage in the steps of evidence-based practice. They need to do a particular project or activity, they need to do the research and find that particular intervention and what the research on that intervention is. And it may not be in TR, it may be social work, it may be radiologic technology. They have research out now on using music and meditation to help individuals with, going through procedures, MRIs, CAT scans, and the relaxation process. So you have radiologic technicians that are actually, going over mindfulness with patients. And so that, that's research can be applied in your setting. So really just having the students to do that work. We don't want it to just stop in academia where they're doing a research problem, the research paper, and that's it. We want to get them familiar and comfortable with going through our journals, and looking at the research that's out there. They should be familiar with that, not just the activities that you see at the facility, but if you're looking to introduce something to a facility and you have a great idea, I want to see the research behind it. What does the researcher say? Has it been done before? If it hasn't been done before, do you want to go through this process of doing research? And so it's important that a lot of the things, or I would say a good majority of the things that the students are doing as an intern, and hopefully they will continue that as a professional, would be based off of the evidence that's out there. So you want to go through clinical reasoning?
I will do clinical reasoning.
Alrighty.
Clinical reasoning. So it is the process used by practitioners to plan, direct, and perform and reflect on the client-centered care. So development of analyzing client assessment data, planning of outcome-based interventions, evaluating the outcomes, and reflecting on the process. Just kind of put that API process in there. And clinical reasoning is also about the movement beyond the technical skills. Thinking and reasoning that challenges interns.
Uh-oh. Give them 1 second. We apologize.
And now it's about, okay, encouraging and.
Jasmine, we lost you for a few seconds.
Oh,
So
are we good? Okay.
we're good now, yeah.
Okay, good. Clinical. So I just want to say, really, it's important that you are, as the site supervisor, encouraging clinical reasoning, okay? And in supporting the students in developing their clinical reasoning skills. And this is something that can't be done from a textbook. This is really that hands-on practice, that evidence, just the evidence-based practice of working with your clients, working in healthcare settings. This is where it comes into play.
Can you still hear us, Sherry? Thumbs up? Okay, good. And so again, clinical reasoning, we go over in academia, but the students need to see it. They need to see that it starts with analyzing that client assessment when you're planning, you are evaluating, but then you're reflecting on the process. I can tell you, the many times, and my fellow CTRS is here, when we first started off, we didn't get it right. And, you just bomb at a program and you say, oh my gosh, why did I do that? But it's reflecting on that. And that's what clinical reasoning is, reflecting on it, and to know that the next time that maybe I should do this, or maybe this will work. And so again, it's that thinking and that reasoning that really challenges the interns and helping them with the decision-making process, right? We will not have the answers for you. And so it is up to you to be able to sort of figure it out, and you're figuring it out with the experts and the CTRSs behind you, but that you are going through this process of making the best decisions possible. So really quick, I'm going to have Jasmine go over clinical reasoning in the TR process, because again, we talked about how it all starts with that API, and she's going to go over interactive reasoning and conditional reasoning.
So in your interactive reasoning, you are building positive interpersonal relationships with the client. And in conditional reasoning, it's a blend of all types of reasoning. In interactive reasoning, you collaborate with the client to identify problems and goals. In conditional reasoning, you respond to challenging conditions. Under interactive reasoning, therapeutic use of self is something that is very common. a healthcare provider's use of verbal and nonverbal communication, their emotional exchange, and other aspects of his or her personality are used to establish a relationship with your patient that promotes cooperation and healing. So really, who you are as a person, we as TR, we are so very personal. We are very personable field. And that is how we develop rapport. And we make people feel comfortable. People just want to chat with us. They want to sit next to us. So that is part of our interactive reasoning. And under conditional reasoning, we anticipate several different client outcomes. So we're kind of planning for our programming, what we're doing, everything is purposeful, and you're thinking a step ahead based on the assessment of the client, of that particular client. It's all person-centered care that it always comes back to.
So we're sharing with you not only clinical reasoning, but interactive reasoning and conditional reasoning. And I will just say this for the students, that this is great information to have. However, you will experience it in time. So you're not going to just arrive there. So you don't arrive, as we say, as that, CTRS that can do documentation with your eyes closed, you know what you need to do. But that just taking into consideration the different types of reasoning that we use in TR. And again, that is all built off of our therapeutic recreation process or rec therapy process, whichever way you look at it, but is the API process, in some places the APID process, but that you are employing the different types of reasoning when you are interacting with your clients. And when you're also reflecting on yourself, when you are going through that process of reflection, that you see that there are various types of clinical reasoning. Obviously, when you see under conditional reasoning, where it's a blend of all reasoning, you're not going to be a student intern and understand what that is. It is a process that is not going to arrive on your 559th day, right? 59th day, right? It's hours, right? Could you imagine? You have 559th hour, it's not going to happen, right? And so that we're just introducing this to you so that you can see the different types of reasoning you may have in your academic setting heard about clinical reasoning, also known as clinical judgment. However, we want to introduce you to the different types of reasoning as well. And as Jasmine mentioned, clinical reasoning is a skill that is ongoing through the lifetime of your clinical practice. Again, you don't just, arrive there. And it is something that, again, is ongoing. So as an academic, I'm always going through the clinical reasoning process, including the interactive process, because it's so important, as Shari mentioned, that you get so much information from your students. You get a lot of information from your students, from your colleagues, from your patients, you get a lot of information. So as you're processing that and you're going through that decision-making process and analyzing, assessing, and evaluating and planning and all of that, it is ongoing. It is definitely ongoing. As you go through different career cycles and different positions, it's something that you're doing as well. So don't just think that you're all of a sudden going to get like this clinical reasoning. Oh, I got it. No, it's something that is really ongoing. So really quickly, because we are at the 4:11 mark, we're going to and again, this is for students that may just need a little bit of clarity in terms of the clinical internship as defined by NCTRC. It is a 14 consecutive week internship experience, 560 hours. Thumbs up for anyone who remember it was 10 weeks, 360 hours, thumbs up. I don't know if I'm dating myself, right? But oh boy, so any thumbs up, Jasmine? But it is 14 consecutive weeks in rec therapy services that uses the recreational therapy process, that's API, as defined by NCTRC's current job analysis study. An acceptable internship is one that is completed after the majority of your recreational therapy or therapeutic recreational and general recreation coursework is completed and verified on your transcript. Just to note that there are some changes that will be happening if they have not happened already in terms of the requirements. I believe that there is an additional course that has been added with NCTRC, but I always direct students to go right to the website. So go right to the website so that you can see. You don't want to, again, this is not a hand-holding process. This is a self-directing process where you know what classes you need to take. And You don't want ever have to have your supervisor, someone say, you know, you have to take another class. Oh my gosh, I'm taking another class. You should be very familiar with NCTRC's their website. Also, they are working on their current job analysis. They have done another research study. They've done a previous research study, and they are looking at that job analysis, which one of the requests from ATRA, the American Therapeutic Recreation Association, was on the demographics of our CTRSs. So that is what they're working on as well. Again, the most important is that your internship must be under the supervision of both academic and agency supervisors who are CTRS certified. And so that is important as well. So this, again, some of this is going to change or has changed. I'm not sure if Jasmine put the updated information, but you have your academic degree path in which the individuals are to take the CTRS exam that have a baccalaureate degree or higher from an accredited college or university with a major in rec therapy or a major in recreational leisure with an option in rec therapy or therapeutic recreation. And again, your official transcript must state the verified degree as well. The professional content coursework, so they do have a minimum of 18 semesters of rec therapy, therapeutic recreation, and gen ed content work with no less than a minimum of 15 semester or 20 quarter hours in TR content. So they do request that there's a minimum of 5 courses in rec therapy or therapeutic rec, and that they must be a minimum of 3 credit hours, and 2 of them is required. 2 of the required rec therapy courses may be taught by the applicant as a full-time educator. And so this is just, I believe, for the certification purposes. I'm not going to go through all of that, but please, at the bottom, you see where it says nctrc.org. Please go there. Again, they have all updated information as well. I always like to include this as part of the internship process. It is so important. And again, not every supervisor may be a member of ATRA. However, they are our national professional organization. Everything that we do are in accordance or should be in accordance with ATRA's standards of practice and their code of ethics. And so it is so important that we don't just leave this hanging after the students have been introduced to this in academia, but that they are introduced to those 10 principles that serve as our code of ethics. Because everything, again, we are the ones who are responsible for developing the new professionals. And again, we want to equip them with everything that they need in terms of the profession, but also we are developing them. So we're developing them professionally. You know, we have developed them critically in how they think on the academic side. And so it is up to the supervisors as they are working with them and developing them professionally that they are using ATRA's standards of practice and code of ethics. Again, I'm not going to go through this, but I always tell the students to make sure that you visit atra.org. They're in the process of redoing their website. It's being done in pieces. And also they're in the process of developing they have developed a diversity task force. So, again, we are trying to, maintain those high ethical standards and also maintain our commitment to diversity as well. So these are our 10 principles. So Jasmine, really quick, is going to, because we have seen it all, we have been through it all, and so have you guys. And I'm sure that if I ask any of you to unmute yourself, you can tell some stories. And so she's going to read the first scenario. And again, this is very helpful for students because, you may or may not experience this, but we want to at least bring these scenarios to mind.
So scenario number 1, a female TR student who is in her early to mid 20s came to interview for an internship position at a nursing home. The student was wearing very, very short shorts. It was during the summer and it was a very hot day. Upon her arrival, the receptionist directed the student to the office of the Director of Therapeutic Recreation. Later, staff informed the Director of TR that one of the male residents literally walked into a wall when the young woman was being directed to the location of her interview. How would you dress for an interview if the interviewee didn't give you direction on how to dress for an interview? So this is more geared towards the students. And I also say to those who interview for students or are planning on interviewing for students, how would you then deal with when the student was brought to you? It's also, and would anybody like to be bold and, unmute themselves and kind of give their thoughts on this? So I know we have a few minutes where we can.
Or you can put it in the chat whenever you feel comfortable.
So I'll tell you that I didn't have an experience like this, but I did have somebody come in for an interview for the position, and they were wearing something that was a little tiny spaghetti strap with like a sweater over it. And when they moved, everything was exposed. And apparently, according to my boss, who was the executive director, this woman was not wearing undergarments. So this was literally, and this person was probably the best candidate. But my boss was like, absolutely not. We are not hiring her because she can't dress appropriately for an interview. So, I give this story when I tell my students as well, because everywhere you go, you are on display, either when you're an intern, when you're an assistant, or you're going as an actual staff. You're always on display, and you need to be professional no matter what you're doing.
Absolutely. It's so important. And again, students, if you were not given any direction, again, part of developing that skill of self-direction, you want to call, you want to email, you just want to be clear. You don't ever want to assume that what you're wearing may be appropriate. And again, it depends on the practice setting. So you could be working with older adults. You could be working with pediatrics. You could be working with, in the psych population. So you want to always just double check. So I would say that, I wouldn't dress for an interview without any direction on, on what to wear for the interview. So it's so important that you do that. Anything else in the chat? Anything pop up in the chat?
I've actually, this is Kathy. I've actually got a similar story of an intern. One of my interns was telling me of a story of they heard of one of their friends out in California heard of someone that dressed for an internship that was on the beach, but they dressed in their swimwear because it was, for out community ed, and so they thought that it's what they were supposed to wear because they were given no direction. Needless to say, they did not get the internship because they were not dressed appropriately. They were qualified, but because of their attire, they did not get the internship.
Absolutely. So you just don't want to ever assume, even if even if that was the situation where, it was, on the beach, and if you came decked out in a 3-piece suit, if you would have contacted someone, they may have said, you know what, this is an interview, but it's going to be a little casual. You can wear this, this, and that. And so just, again, just double check. You don't want to always assume that what is the best appropriate dress wear for the particular interview. So thank you for that, Kathy, because again, I told you that we can have stories where you'll be amazed, but this is why I always tell people don't make that assumption. So scenario number 2, it is a male TR student who is in his early to mid 30s, and he has begun his internship position at a pediatric healthcare facility. His second week into the internship, the student was walking around the facility with an unlit cigarette dangling from his mouth. The director of therapeutic recreation asked the student intern to remove the cigarette from his mouth. The student verbalized that it was unfair because the cigarette was not lit. It was explained to the student that this was not professionally appropriate for him to have an unlit cigarette dangling from his mouth in a facility that serves minors, and that the parents of these minors may find it offensive, as in New York state, all healthcare facilities are smoke-free facilities. What are your thoughts on professionalism in this scenario? Do you feel that TR student interns represent their schools when they are at their internship sites, and how would you drag, oh no, so that's a typo.
Oh, sorry.
So just
Typo.
those two.
Sorry.
What
about
are
that.
your thoughts on professionalism in this scenario? And do you feel that the TR student represents their schools when they're at their internship sites? So I wonder if this, do you think that they represent the school or the internship site? Which one do they represent?
Okay.
I didn't see the chat. You can
Nothing
put it
in
in the
the chat.
chat, or you can.
We've got a
someone-
hand raised from Catherine.
Okay, Catherine.
Okay.
I just feel it was unprofessional because if the director already asked you to do something, I don't think you should question it. I feel like it was very obvious why. And then he represents both the school and the facility he's working.
I think so. I agree.
I agree. And I just want to say, these are not made up. These are real. These are true stories.
Yes.
By the way, these are true. So please don't ever think like, oh wow, this
That would
is so
be-
obvious. Why would they put this as a scenario? These are real life scenarios, and trust me, there are many, many more. And thank you for that, Catherine. Anyone else?
You've got 2 comments in the comment section.
Okay.
Yes, I see. So I think TR students definitely represent both the school and their facility that they are working. That was from Alba. And she's one of our grads and now is at Lehman. And then Tasha wrote, I feel like the TR students represent both. But definitely, if they are in a facility, they are literally the face-to-face of they are the face of the facility. That's a good point.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And so we always constantly remind students of that. We remind them that, you know, it is a very perplexed situation that you're in, but you represent both. Yanitza has her hand raised.
Yes, and then
Hi, I definitely agree with every comment that has been made, and also to add on, as an intern or a professional, you want to be a role model to whoever you are working with. So it's just completely unprofessional to do that because these kids are looking up to you as a professional.
yeah.
Absolutely. And even think about, you know, you want to be a role model for other students that's coming after you, right? So you don't want to be the intern where the supervisor says, no, we don't want any more of your students. We're good. You don't want to be that one. You want to be the role model that they can say, you guys must be doing something at that school that we really want these students to, you know, to come, you know, at our facility. They're always helpful. They always have, you know, take self-direction, initiative. So you want to be a role model, not only to your, you know, your patients, if you have, you know, depending on the setting that you work in, but you want to be a role model for the students that, you know, come after you. And Yanitza is one of our graduates. She's at Lehman as well. And so part of what we do at LaGuardia is have the students who graduated come back and talk to the students, you know, that are currently in the program, because it's so important that, you know, they share with them what their experience is and that they're the role models. So those are the, you know, the graduates of the role model that they're coming back and that they are, you know, doing a turnkey with the current students. And so we always think, and it's and all my other, you know, students that may be on the line that always, you know, come back. It's so important.
Yes. Donna and Felicia agree that you're representing the school as students, you're representing the school and the on-site facility.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Let me tell you, no CTR supervisor ever wants their administrators or executive director to say, who's that student? Where did that student come from? You don't want, because again, it's a reflection not only on the director, but it's also a reflection on the college. And so while the student is, you know, representing the facility and the school, the director is as well. And so you don't want, you know, they don't ever want to hear from their supervisors that someone that they are supervising is not, you know, following the rules of the code of conduct. So really, I think we got like 3 minutes. Jasmine's going to talk about, you know, programming and, you know, programming in TR beyond the pandemic. And so we're going to just like quickly go over this because we don't want to go over.
So things that you can do, so especially for students, right? Those of us who are CTRSs and we are, maybe you start taking interns again, or you're thinking about it, but you wonder, how do you fit them in? For students, something that you can do when you call for an interview, if you are, you know, I can give you virtual programming. I can, for instance, offering How can we have TR professionals and interns, what they can do? Actually, Tamika, if we can skip to the next slide,
Sure.
you want to market yourself with, we can have bingo Zoom time. I can run a bingo session in Zoom. I can set everything up and make it easier for you. The meeting time, the entire game, hallway morning stretch, where you can just have residents stand in front of their doorways and the intern is in the hallway being supervised by CTRS or somebody in the rehab team, maybe collaborating with the physical therapist and doing morning stretches where everybody's in there standing in their doorway. So they are usually the rooms of nursing homes and hospitals are usually at a good distance apart, so that can promote social distancing and still having them wear their mask. Let's play Cahoots. Cahoots has been around, but it's become very popular in this time of the pandemic. It's just a little setting it up, putting the questions in, student to take the time and do that. So you can market yourself to, I can do this for you. I can help set up, now the weather's getting nicer. We can have backyard events or courtyard events, barbecues. I can help organize everything. I can decorate. I can help the residents, and we have a couple of people decorate, but we keep everything social distant. Exercise via Zoom, where the student sets everything up and they are making flyers for the event. We literally had all these things happening in this, but we were doing this as the CTRSs, right? But we were just trying to figure everything out. Now you can incorporate your student interns into doing this for you. You can have a paint group where everybody is doing it on Zoom or some kind of maybe, what's the other one? Google Meets. Again, it's setting everything up. So if the student is offering to do this for you, take advantage of that. And they're usually, students seem to be better with the computer technology, I have to say, generally. So that's always very helpful. Movie night under the stars. Again, setting it up so that you can have that in your courtyard or backyard. So as students, you can market yourself and say, I can do this, that, and the other, and I will take the time so that you don't have to do that. Any activity that can be effectively and socially help people to social distance the participant is an activity that we can do. And I mean, we need activities, right? We are essential and we need to keep doing our essential work, and students can be a part of that. So a lot of times facilities may not know how to incorporate you into their program. If you come to the interview with ideas like this, it's going to get you noticed.
Brainstorm together. So we know that we're at the
Or exactly.
we're exactly at the 4:30, and we are mindful of people's time, even though it is a Saturday. That doesn't mean anything. So if anyone has any questions, we can, take questions. I will also just in the chat, I guess, Jasmine can in the chat put our contact information.
Yes, sorry, you're gonna hear my typing. So
yeah.
Tamika and I are in the same room. So when I type, she hears. So if I unmute so that you don't hear my typing, you then can't hear her. So this is why. So sorry about that. I'll try to type quietly. Or yes.
And please don't forget, as Sharon mentioned, she put in the chat, you please download that form. It has to be converted to a Word document. So please click on it. When you get it, download it, convert it, and then upload it and email it to nystra2021@yahoo.com. So
thanks, Tamika. That is awesome. I appreciate that. That was perfect timing. Also, just so everybody knows, before we end, make sure that you comment your name if you already haven't, or if you already haven't contributed to the discussion. Because if you contributed to the discussion, I have your name. If you contributed your name earlier, I have your name. If neither of those things happened, then contribute like your name right now. And this way I can make sure that I can have the attestation form match up with the live attendance. So aside from that, I just want to give it back to Dr. Battle and to Professor Edwards.
So thank you, everyone. It was, Jasmine, and my pleasure of being here with you today. And let me see. I'm going to take my name in.
Linda has a hand raised.
Oh,
Yes.
I'm just contributing. I want to make sure that I've been considered contributing.
Fabulous.
All righty. So we thank you again. Again, we understand that clinical internships will probably look very, very different for some time now. We understand that, but I feel that, and I hope that we provided some good information, not only to the students, but to the CTRSs and practitioners that are looking for interns or maybe have interns, and just different ways that you can look at that process. And really, it's so important that you stay connected with the school, you stay connected with the academic supervisor. So we thank you and hope that you enjoyed our session. It is so good to see all of you. I wish it was at a conference, but you guys are looking good. I'm scrolling through, and Susan is giving me all this life with her glasses. I'm like, yes. And so I don't know what the pandemic did, but I'm telling you, it's so good to see you guys. Russ, it's so good to see you again. Sonia, can't see you, but always good to know that you are just a click of a button away. So Donna, Jeremy, it's wonderful to see my students. So hopefully one day soon we will, be able to hug and see each other again. So it was our pleasure.
From your lips to everybody's ears, because hopefully next year we'll be in person and we'll be able to hug everybody and really just be there with each other. And thank you all so much. Additionally, I did post the link again in case anybody is questioning. And if you have any other questions, please message me.